All right. So, welcome everyone, uh, and thanks for joining us today for this webinar. This is Manish, and I will be a host today. Before we proceed, please.
Manish, your voice is gone.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Uh, can you all please confirm if you are able to hear me and see my screen?
Yes.
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 Perfect. Perfect. So today we are going to share our thoughts and ideas on protecting revenue with digital platforms enabling your digital workforce. Please join me in welcoming our speakers for this session today. The first speaker we're going to have is Nikhil Kothari, Executive Director, Intertek Systems. And we also have a co-speaker, Elian Redosvi, who is the Global Sales Director from Aura Portal. Just a few house rules before we get started. Kindly put yourself on mute throughout the webinar. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them in the chat box in Microsoft Windows control panel on the right hand side. I will bring them towards the end of this presentation, and we will also have the time for Q&A at the end. A recorded version of this session will also be made available post this webinar. Now, without any further ado, I would request Nikhil to take over. Over to you, Nikhil. You can probably request for a control.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Thank you. So, morning, everybody. Thank you for being here with us today. I think it's we're touching a pretty interesting subject. I think with the whole situation going on the last couple of months with everybody, this is probably one of the hot topics that we are seeing across customers, and some interesting things that we've already done, in fact, in this period, helping some of the organizations to pass through some of the challenges when it comes to looking and moving from the yesteryears to the new digital era. So let me just start with one slide on Intertek. For some of you, I can see a lot of you already know us, have worked with us. Just for the sake of some, sorry, yeah. So as Intertek, we've been around for the last 29 years. We are amongst the top 10 IT service and system integrators in the Gulf. We're present today in 5 countries, 4 in the GCC, 1 out of India. Wherein between these locations, we have a local and offshore NOC. We have software delivery centers. We're about a 600 people organization today. And very strongly believe in terms of employee and customer satisfaction. So a lot of focus does go into us to make sure we have highly capable and consistent employees to make sure our projects and customer satisfaction stays always extremely high. Yeah, and just straight to get into the subject for today is the slide's not moving. Yeah. So what we've done here is really picked up, one is in terms of few things of what analysts are telling us, and also from a perspective of how we see the whole digital footprint, be it a public sector organization or a private sector organization. So what I'll touch upon from a context of today's meeting, we'll have 3 areas. So one is I'll touch upon from a very high level strategy and roadmap or footprint on digital ecosystems that I think any organization has to look at. And how does that help in today's situation? I'll have my colleague Elian, who will cover us in terms of how you could really do very quick process automation to look at today's situation to overcome in your own internal processes or customer processes to make sure your operations as well as customers are better taken care of. Right, and following that, we'll also show you a demo to see how quickly you can do a lot of these things and kind of simplify the whole situation, which I can see today, a lot of people are going through some certain level of chaos. And what we see today is because of COVID, I think broadly all customers we've spoken to today have accepted this is nothing less than an 18-month window of a new normal of operation. The whole focus for people like us in the room is to look at how our organizations can stabilize very quickly in operations to adjust to what is the new normal. And also at the same time, when you look at stabilizing operations, it's important to look at that we're not only looking at, okay, fine, let me get over the next 2 months, but really looking at how do you use this time and opportunity to make sure you punch back very quickly and very strongly when things recover, when we look at the next year. So this is really an year of investment to make sure your digital backbone, along with other infrastructure backbones, are strengthened to bounce back stronger. So some of the things that we are seeing as a result of looking at protecting customers and employees, as well as the stabilizing of operations, we see a lot of work today where most organizations are looking at broadly 4 things. One is around the whole area of digital. So how do I make sure my digital footprint is strong to serve customers, I protect my revenues, and also manage my digital workforce. Right, so there's work around where we're doing process automation work, to portal mobility, to, for example, back office automation, to customer services. There's a lot of work there to make sure that, accepting with the new way of working, your self-service backbone has to be strengthened. Second, we are seeing also from a business continuity planning perspective, a lot of organizations are looking at what is my cloud roadmap going to be, simply because we've seen certain organizations, including government, for example, where we've had customers literally plug off and plug in the next morning with no difference to the end users on continuity of service. We see also right now, because of COVID, the sort of cybersecurity attacks have pretty much doubled. We know many customers that have been hit with ransomware attacks, for example. And we see this is the time to really spend time with customers as a priority. Number one is really to look at how do you secure your organizations. So a lot of work today, from a policy to gap assessment to mitigation with various technologies, a lot of work going on. And finally, what we see is at this time when cash is a problem, a lot of different models in terms of how we work in the new normal, in terms of even looking at the maintenance and operations. So we see with this, there's a growth on offshoring, simply because it gets you straight 30-40% cost savings on certain heads. So we see when people are looking at new hiring, because visas are a problem, travel is a problem, and people have gotten adjusted to the new way of working, they're happy to look at people being outside the country as well. Second, we see also a lot of work on shared services increasing, things like, for example, knock and sock services, simply because people then don't have to go on site. Very much as a shared service, it could run multi-location, right? So these are all measures from a business continuity as well as revenue and cost that we see as activity going on right now. As a result of this, what we wanted to focus in today's meeting was really the digital. And what we see here as Intertek is, when you speak of digital workforce and customers separately, the case going forward may not be the same. Today, customers will look very much as how do you serve customers in the new digital era? What's the business priorities going to be around that? What's your business model going to be around that? And hence, what's my digital workforce going to be looking like to make sure I serve those customers very effectively? So we see with this, there's going to be a lot of work around updating policies, be it from security to data to IT, and also procurement. We see there'll be a lot of work on automation, where automation will start as a priority first with looking at what is it that is stopping me today as an organization to serve my customer. We have something there which is a paper-based process, is manual, needs approvals, I cannot get signatures. That's the first thing that people are latching onto to make sure at least my business continues. With that being done, the second thing is to look at ROI. There's several use cases across any organization where automation can be brought on, and that helps you bounce back with agility. So there'll be a lot of work on ROI. People look eventually, what sort of budget do I have left till December this year? And what do I prioritize from that? And then what do I park for the next year? And I think a lot of today's meeting is really going to be around looking at this particular area to show you how you can do this very effectively, very quickly, and in a highly agile manner, right? The other thing what we see is the expansion of service, self-service capabilities, your portal, mobility, AI, bots, case management, etc. Customers have organizations have no choice but to make sure they're very, very strong in a backbone, and more investments are done in that space to make sure you are able to differentiate from your competitors and make sure your sustainability of revenue with your existing customers. Finally, what we see is the growth of mobility. A lot of sectors, I'm sure some of you in the room as well, where you've had no director of certain skill sets of people, for example, engineers, inspectors, who have to continue going on the field. So we see there'll be a lot of automation work on the field services to ensure the social distancing as well as workload balancing, effectiveness of workforce being practiced through a lot of mobility and automation around that. So jumping into, sorry, the slides are giving me a problem. Yeah, so jumping into from a digital platform perspective, what I spoke on automation, how do we see it today in terms of how do you as an organization look at your own maturity? In this, what we've done is, so this is pretty much a Gartner slide, which is looking at from a public sector perspective of maturity. So this is a digital maturity 2.0. We speak this a lot with the government customers to help them look at digital maturity. We help them implement digital platforms around that. But a lot of the takeaway from this is applicable across sectors. There's no difference really if you look at from a private to a government. And what this is basically telling you as within your organizations to assess is a lot of organizations in the last 5 years have invested to look at how do I bring my services online. So that's really an initial stage of maturity where people have looked at, for example, it's been IT-centric projects where I've had my requirements. I've looked at converting those requirements. I've done a lot of bespoke development. They've taken time. They've had reruns. And ultimately, I've got something which I had to adjust with and live with and carry on. It didn't have so much of a focus on user experience, didn't have so much of a focus on being people independent, and didn't have so much of a focus on the business being aligned to IT. There was always a strive of business being aligned to IT, but the methodologies used were quite technical, where business pretty much compromised very often, and the objectives were never as agile to drive those initiatives forward. So this is where what we see a lot of organizations have moved things online, but really did it serve the business objectives? What we do here is to look at digital platforms to make sure that you don't even start from here. You really start from the third level of maturity, which means I've already got my requirements. I've already got my data architecture for API integrations to various other ecosystems that I have, which may be internal, external. So in the case of government, for example, there's today a lot of government to government integration, government to private integration. In private sector, there'll be a lot of integrations again through ecosystem partners or internal applications. How well structured are you on that? But if that is well in shape, what we really start with is level 3, where we are looking at how do you get business to be the core ecosystem of leadership around digital projects. And that's the only way you will really see outcomes and KPIs being achieved. So we don't want to look at today, looking at only what the percentage of services that go online. That's important because every service that goes online means there's a potential digital revenue to your organization. But the question is really how effective are those processes? So what percentage of improvement in outcomes and KPIs can be driven through them? How do I make sure my digital workforce behind these processes serving customers are effective in the KPIs and SLAs? And that's really the core where you look at common language used with business, where they understand in common English and they're able to look at process improvement and continuous improvement as an organization to be responsive. So when we start from here with most of our customers, what we tell them is as a technology company, we could help you put the digital ecosystem together. We could help you put the digital platforms. But from there on, it's your own organization as a strategy that you choose to look at how do you jump from level 3 to level 4 and 5. Because level 4 and 5 is really more about strategy and less about technology. Technology ecosystem is strengthened the minute you get to level 3 because you've got a strong digital backbone, and we'll cover that in the next slide. But really what you do as strategy to look at new service delivery models, what do you retire and what do you introduce? How do you further improve your competitiveness from a perspective of both revenue and cost is really the organization drive. But the fact that you've got your business to level 3, it helps them envision and believe that you as IT can get them to level 5 as well, as far as they have a strategy in place that you can drive. Right, and from here, very simplified version. This is again, it's an Intertek view, but I think a lot of this you could relate to. There are broadly 3 things that you want to look at when you look at digital strategies or platforms and footprint in your organization. You want to look at how you do your customer experience, which could be B2B, B2C, or government to citizen or government to business. Within that, you want to look at what are my sources of digital revenue, which means what's my omni-channel layer? How's my user experience around that? Is there any sort of partner ecosystem integrations around that? How do I look at my customer services? Today, as we know, along with contact centers, people are doing a lot of work around AI to make sure I have digital workers full-time working behind the scenes on customer service. We also see the adoption of video integrating into that. We also see the customer experience will change, where as organizations get more digitally savvy to serve customers, contextual data will become more important. So how do you bring in your systems and analytics to make sure there's data being provided at the time that is required, right? Very contextual. But behind this is the service orchestration layer, where you look at automation, data, and integration. And what we tell organizations, and I think that's the new journey, because there's been a lot of glamour if you look at the last 5 years around, I've built beautiful mobile apps, I've built beautiful portals, but the problem was behind the scenes, the ecosystem was weak. So responsiveness was weak, integrations were weak, and hence the strength of really looking at what I've leveraged in the front end was not being realized in the back end. Our whole focus is really how do we help organizations to build very strong service automation, data, and integration layers to make sure this becomes the backbone for digital to serve any sort of initiative you have, whether it's emerging technologies or business applications where you consume services. This is where we work very closely with Aura Portal on the IBPMS. They're a core partner on digital for us, where we look at the BPM layer, stitching really the services that come from business applications on the back end and your portal mobility in the front end, stitching the journey together. So your user journeys to KPIs, to service availability, to service responsiveness, really that is where the business focuses as a core to look at your digital ecosystem. Alongside that, there's work obviously today when you look at BPM integrating to RPA, your ESB layers, API layers, etc. And then behind the scenes, there's the whole digital workforce where you would have your set of digital applications, business applications, productivity suites, a lot of collaboration work today going on across companies, and your field services and mobility, right? So mobile workforce management, again, is a big thing. Along with these digital services, you have the backbone of infrastructure. We see the movement of cloud. So we believe in the next couple of years, a lot of applications will move towards the cloud. And we need to make sure the digital ecosystems we invest in today are ready for that movement, are capable to move seamlessly in a hybrid environment. Investments around networks and communications, cybersecurity. So again, assessing every bit of my ecosystem, be it a portal mobility or an application, is a different cybersecurity need. If I go to IoT, again, is a different cybersecurity need. So as digital teams, it's important to also look at how do I look at security in the journey of whatever I do on my digital services? And finally, how do I manage the operations around everything that I do to serve? So this is one view, if you look at from a digital framework of how organizations, very simply could put a plan together and strategize, and we're there to support the ecosystem. Final slide for me is just to look at some of the sample projects we've done in the region. And these are all, if I look at the last 1 year, we've done work around examples of citizen services and business processes for a countrywide public utilities. So for example, Oman, we run the entire backbone of digital for public water. This is also, for the simple an example again where IT and business aligning in this new way of working. What we've seen through the business consulting phase itself, we've actually seen things like change of tariffs. We've seen change of processes coming simply because the way you're discussing using digital platforms is so different from a standard .NET or Java development. We've done work around, for example, free zone, where we've taken customers from where they had 10 processes and legacy systems today to about 75 plus processes in a period of 1 year. And today the digital revenues are growing. We've done things on internal processes, for example, policy procedure, complete ecosystem of inspections and regulations. Again, we've done work around internal portals. We have SharePoint practices, UX developers, workflows. So there's a lot of work around employees and employee collaboration, again, that we do work on. We've also done work around, for example, application reengineering. So one of the leading insurance companies here, we're replacing the entire core life and general insurance. So again, capabilities around application reengineering. So these are some examples of digital projects, and just to give you an idea of capabilities that we bring in terms of helping you go through the journey. Yeah. So that is very quick from my side, giving you an idea of capability as well as frameworks and maturity models that you could also look at in your organizations. and we'll share these slides at the end of the presentation. I'd like to hand over from here to Ilian. Again, Ilian's a dear friend, a very close partner to us. And so the rest of the meeting is really about how do we look at in this backbone of the IBPMS to look at service automation, and how could you use that today in the new way of working from your remote workers as well as business processes. Yeah. So thank you, and over to you, Ilian.
Thank you, Nihil. I'll take over the control.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ilian, you have the control.
Okay, very good. So thank you all for taking the time and joining this webinar. And as Nihil already said, we are an IBPMS, which is a very complicated way of saying that our platform is being used to create applications and business solutions without using any coding, using the methodology of process handling. The company itself, it's based in Spain with headquarters all over the world and with representatives and key partners as Intertek systems in the Middle Eastern region. And what we have identified, let's see if I can change the slides, is that apart from being a platform that allows to cover any of the scenarios that your business may have, in the current situation we are in, we created a framework that already has pre-built applications that can be easily customized without any coding in a very short period of time to just accelerate the coverage of the necessities that businesses have right now. And this framework, we called it remote work, as now the entire world is working from home, at least in the business segment. And what we have created is, on top of our platform, a modular application that has multiple pre-built simple processes, applications to get started the first day you deploy our platform. It contains within the platform the application of requesting to configure VPNs, multi-factor authentication. So the things that now working from home are important, and having the IT department not at home, it's important to have this controlled and be able to request this type of configurations. Material requests like what do you need to actually work from home, if your business can provide it. So a request for purchase, as well any type of administration processes like regulation, supporting documents that needs to be modified, verified, password change requests, so everything that has to do with the configuration of authentication, task flow, workflow, so that whatever activity you need to undertake, so you don't just send out emails back and forth, putting 20 people in copy, but actually having it in a controlled workflow manner that allows you to create dynamic workflows. So application that their execution can be dynamically designed while you're executing it. So step 1, step 2, step 3, not predefined by the government or by the company you work with, but actually creating a collaboration between your colleagues within the company through an application that generically will handle this workflow. Job registration process, of course, it's very important that now that we have a big part of our workforce, if not all, working from home, it's important that we keep up as well with our invoicing, as well with purely the control over if our employees are being productive, if they are doing their work, and in general being able to register their activities within a system that you can customize specifically for the way you're doing it in your company. As well, an entry page that is completely customizable. It's using the same principle as a web page, with one big difference, that it doesn't require any coding. It doesn't require any knowledge about HTML or PHP or JavaScript. You just configure it as a drag and drop environment within your work environment. And of course, a chatbot or a virtual agent, that is technology that can help employees really interact and be more productive when they can ask questions, obtain information. All of this has been pre-built in a platform that, apart from having this already pre-built solutions to get you started right away, you can customize it and you can create whatever applications you need for your business right now. So I'll go very fast through the slides, and I'm actually going to show you this the platform as well as the applications that we have pre-built for the handling of today. And it is looking like this. It is a web-based interface that has a very modern design, easy to use, that contains all the different application as well as the tasks that have been assigned to you to do your work. These dashboards, of course, have the applications embedded, which are in the form of applications that can be redesigned, restructured, and modified very fast, very easy. And when I say fast, we're talking about minutes, hours, or days, not months or quarters. So this type of applications are the ones that you can customize, that you can create your workflows and your run through. And of course, all of this within a framework of complete auditability that will have out of the box reports, not only on the data that is generated by the application, but as well on the behavior of the participants inside the company platform. The chatbot features is something really important, and the chatbot feature is something that is utilizing Microsoft technology, which are currently one of the most advanced technologies for virtual assistants and chatbots. And chatbots are actually robots with combined with artificial intelligence. You can train them, you can adapt them to really serve any type of different use case. So not only to guide employees to how to do their work or having an automated Q&A, but as well the ability to interact as a virtual agent. So actually gathering information and then triggering activities in the background. So it's not just something that you would be doing a small talk with, but actually a productivity tool that will help you interact with the business and as well with information behind. So we have two types of chat features. One is, of course, as I said, the chatbot, and the other one is the virtual agent. Both of them are Microsoft technology that we have improved and embedded within the remote work framework of our portal. And there are some differences between them, and I think it's important to understand the value and as well the difference of the different chatbots. So the chatbot is a technology that is very cheap. So depending on the amount of interactions that you do with the chatbot, it can have a cost from 150 euros per month up. And of course, the customization, which is the trainer, is in this case not included. It is perfect for providing support and have a Q&A database that will be interacting with the chatbot so that it can access it and be able to respond to questions that your employees have. It can be oriented to work towards actually outside services or even searchable document libraries within the system. So that means that not using the typical just search function of an ECM or of a document management, but actually through a conversational chat bot in this case, actually obtaining this information from the background. Everything can be, of course, customized and be indicated for each customer individually. But in this case, the chatbot cannot initialize or interact with processes or applications with more complex conversational flow. This is just a limitation of the chatbot of Microsoft technology. And the virtual agent in this case, which is from the user perspective, the same thing, it's just a different type of technology that is utilized, have different type of interactions. See why it's not loading. Thank you, Manish. So the virtual agent can start actually applications and processes and interact with information that is coming from the application. It can interact with other platforms, so with your existing CRM, CRP systems, or even custom built applications that you have in the background. So it will breach the different technology and unify them into this conversational engine of the virtual agent. It can actually even communicate by voice, so natural language processing that Microsoft announced that it will be available very soon. And of course, more functionalities in the future, as this is the technology that is going to be evolving, and Microsoft is investing a lot into the virtual agent features that, of course, will have as well a bit of a higher price than the simple chatbot. The product is currently in a beta phase, but as you will see, it is quite advanced because it's not only answering through text, but as well giving you the operation of choice menus, is giving you a lot of more features that will be available in more languages. From this month on, Microsoft has announced it will be available in more languages. At this point of time, it's only available in English. So the Q&A engine, you can manually train him. So as a bot trainer or as an AI trainer, you can actually train the virtual agent how to answer questions, but it cannot interact with the Q&A database as the chatbot. Now, what are the features in general of the remote work platform of our portal? It is, of course, completely orientated to business and IT, so it can have both approaches. So as a citizen developer and as a professional developer, although it doesn't require coding, the complexity of the interaction can be controlled depending on the type of profiles assigned to it. It is 100% web-based technology. That means that the deployment and the utilization of the applications can be done just by having a web browser, so the rollout is very easy. And we have seen how our customers and new customers have covered rollouts in less than 1 week after actually onboarding the platform and having their employees and as well external entities like citizens in the case of governments or external parties, partners or providers they work with already benefiting from remote work with our portal. It is a business application development platform. It has intranet and extranet, as I gave you the example. So not only for your internal employees, but as well for anyone in your external ecosystem. Embedded and out-of-the-box analysis and audit trails, chatbots, mobility, of course, workflow, which is one of the main components. Digital signatures, which nowadays, as you cannot collect physical signature, we've seen it's a very important feature to have inside your mobile and web application. Social and collaborative, as you can actually interact and minimize the impact the current isolation and working from home has to really work within a team to streamline the work and not have it all just sending emails and making 20 meetings a day to be able to do a work. Custom master data management, so it's not only the applications that you build with it, but you can actually handle all the data that sits behind it. And of course, connecting with the already existing systems with native connectors, which will allow you to actually do the integrations in a lot faster and easier way without high level of technology requirements. So what is unique with the installation of the Aura Portal platform, and even particularly with the remote work framework, it doesn't have any limits of how many applications or processes you're going to be running. So how many you're going to be building. There's no limit whatsoever. So the difference between most platforms is they tell you, okay, here you have this 2 processes, 5 applications, and that's what you can use. And every additional one, you have to have a new licensing, a new type of costing that is based on transactions. In our portal, this is completely unlimited. As well, you can run them 2 times a day or 1,000,000 times a day. There's no limitation whatsoever. As well, the amount of documents and in general multimedia files or any type of ECM content, there's no limit of how much you're going to be handling within the platform. And of course, the speed of the user interface is very important, as we're talking about 0.001 second for executing each one of the objects within the complexity of the processes that you're going to build, as well as a user interface interaction with, of course, with a sensible internet connection of 0.5 seconds, which of course is very important as well today. So lightweight applications that are browser native that can actually do this execution. So what are some of the outstanding features that we've seen already with customers that have deployed it, even customers that have not undertaken any digital initiatives until now? As soon as they deploy a platform approach and even have this remote work processes already available from day zero, of course, the cost reduction is the first thing that you get, because deploying something that is already ready to be used, there's no investment that needs to be done. Productivity growth is instant. So customers have reported us only in the first month that they have a productivity growth of over 19%. Time reduction of actually executing activities within the business. It doesn't matter in which kind of division, department, or activity, of over 74%, as now everything is streamlined and automated through a digital platform, in this case, a business process management platform. And the analysis and decision capabilities of the company increased by 83%, as it has not only embedded native reports and analytics, but as well you can customize your reports and real-time monitoring at any given time without having to use any other outside systems or application. Everything is available within the platform. Error reduction of 88%, as now you are guiding your employees or your external entities to interact with an application that is based on rules, on visibility control, dynamic behavior. Errors are reduced drastically. And of course, efficiency, as now the work is all centralized in a platform that will handle these activities that right now are decentralized. Now, this is the part of the presentation. I will come back to this part later. I'll take over control and actually show you that this is not just some nice slides that we're showing, but this is actually something that is executable. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Very good. So, as I said, our portal is completely web-based. In this case, what you're seeing, I'm using, I think, Google Chrome. And as Google Chrome, I've logged into the remote work application framework of our portal. And I have this interface that has been customized, ready to be used, although you can create and modify it the way you want it to be. And the first thing I'm going to show you is just some of the examples of applications that have been built, as I've listed them before. So one of the things is, of course, to register an activity, and registration of an activity can be done in multiple ways, of course, through a calendar or through a list registration. But of course, A very easy way to do it is just using a calendar, as it's something native to every user. It doesn't require any guidance. And simply just by selecting where you want to register your activity, it triggers you one of the applications that has been built, which you can customize and adapt and change the way you want. And let's say that I'm going to register a webinar with Intertek, and I'm going to define that this activity starts at 9:30 my local time, as I'm in Europe, until 10:30. And I'm going to actually say that I'm the one who's going to be using it, in this case, user 5. The type of activity is a meeting, and with this, I actually registered my activity within the application. Of course, all of this is with replanning, so I can actually replan my activities or even do modifications. So it will actually even indicate in case you're using hourly workers, it will instantly calculate the amount of days calculation, hour calculation, or minute calculation, all depending on the specifics of your calculation for work that your employees are doing. Another thing that you can do is as well the dynamic workflow. It is one of the other applications that has been pre-built. It is a very generic application so that you can actually create interactions between employees very easily in a controlled framework. So not just sending emails. Everybody hates emails. We want to get away from emails. And here I can simply state that please can you review the information below? And I can, of course, this is demo text. I can describe here the activity that I want to send to my colleagues. Maybe there's a specific account related to it, or maybe even a specific contact that this communication is related to. I can upload documentation. I can select if I want to send it to a specific employee within the company, or I want to send it to a list of people, or maybe even I want to send it something that is to all the departments, maybe some kind of notification that I want to do to them, or even select a specific department that I want to involve in this completely dynamic process, as the users are going to be deciding how it's going to be executed or how it's going to be working step by step at every given moment completely dynamically. And as you can see, one of the concepts I have explained here is the user guidance. So as you can see, depending on the choices I'm making, the system will interact differently. I can decide even controls that can be done directly in real time. And of course, in this case, I'm submitting this application so it goes and continue the flow. Another thing is document approval. In the end, a very important thing is when we are generating documents, maybe you have systems that are doing this, or maybe you want to use our portal for it. But in the end, they have specific flows within our company, approvals, like maybe a new purchase order or a document that is a legal contract. All of this, you can actually do it as well within our portal. So again, as you can see, the interfaces are completely customizable. There's no predefined structure. I can really guide the user to the work activity that I want him to do. In this case, let's just put something very simple in here. I'm going to take even one of my documents and put it inside the application. It will instantly even preview directly within the application. This is something that you can customize, and as well it will read any type of documents and instantly pre-visualize them on the screen. So these are some very simple examples, but as I said, the idea is so that you can have all of this right away in the moment that you're setting up your your remote work platform. Even a request for purchase, something that right now as well is something quite standard. So an application that can handle how you're going to request it. Again, it is the idea, so it is as a template, so you can actually decide all the way that is going to be interacting inside the platform, or it can adapt specifically to your particular business scenario. So I'm going to just fill it in very fast. Let's say that need new webcam. The amount is, I don't know, $53. And my webcam is not working. So if I have a quotation, of course, I can choose the supplier. In this case, it's a general supplier that I want to select. And I can select the type of payment that I'm going to be doing if I already done it, or I can even upload the documentation I need. At any given point of time, we have included, of course, the ability to have a conversation with the virtual assistant. Hi, please, can you help? So at any point of the conversation or in the interaction that you have with the application, you can actually have the bot and be able to interact with them. So I'm going to just push this process ahead, which is user 505. And we're going to see what actually has been done to make all of this work. So our portal is a BPM platform, so it is creating applications and business solutions based on business processes, so on process diagrams. And these process diagrams, all of them are created within the system. So what I'm going to show you now is, let's say, the development environment in quotations, of course, because there's no coding whatsoever to create this application. And the first thing is, of course, telling the story or telling how the process or how the logic of the application is going to be executed. And all of this is done with our native modeling tool, which is based on business process notation. As you can see, it's completely web-based. And the modeling is simply the use of the standard BPMN modeling, which is Business Process Management Notation 2.0, which contains personal tasks, so tasks performed by people, or human tasks, decision gateways, so rules and decisions that needs to be taken automatically, system activities, for example, automatically creating a document or sending an email, anything that you want the system to be doing automatically, as well as KPIs that you want to put inside your diagrams. All of this, as you can see, the complexity can be as big as you want, as complex as you want, and the overall story could be as simple to understand by IT, as well as the everyday user that is going to interact with the application so they can see actually what is going on, where are my interactions. As modification go, as I have repeated so many times, it's completely customizable. That means that I can, even on screen level, I can customize the interactions of the users, how they're going to be doing that, as simple as using the web-based modeling tool. And all of this is simply a question of configuration. So I can modify what is every button going to do, what is each data field behavior going to be, even positioning. All of this is simply drag and drop and configuration that don't require any coding, modify the applications at any given point of time, and simply using the configuration interface of our portal to do this type of modifications. So anyone interested more into how all of this actually is being created and how even your own necessities that maybe are not this particular ones that we have pre-built can be created in a fraction of the time you could possibly imagine, you can contact with Intertek directly and just ask them what kind of things we have done for other customers, and of course, how this can actually help your business in any of the business units and departments that you currently have, or even cross-departmental activities, as the complexity of the processes, there's no limit whatsoever. All of this is good and nice. So we have our application that, for example, in this case, as you can see, I've sent myself some activities to not jump between users. One of them was a request for a purchase that I have created. The one that is at 9 o'clock and 49 minutes, so one that has been created 3 minutes ago. And of course, in this step, we are simulating that a purchasing manager or somebody who is doing the work needs to actually approve all of this and be interacting with this application. So all of this are examples, of course, that can be customized, but it's easier to start from something that is already pre-built and just modify it if you don't have it clear what exactly the necessity in your particular company is. Or, for example, for the document approval, again, the entire idea of showing you this is just to show you the flexibility and this dynamic behavior of the application. As you can see here, I can delegate it to a colleague of mine in case this is not something I can make a decision for, or in case I want to submit it, all the dynamic behavior, digital signatures that you can apply, and of course, all of this inside a controlled framework that you can audit and view at any given point of time. So we talked about control and reports, and in this case, we can see here report, for example, for general assistance, people that requested general assistance. We can see live reports or real-time reports, all built within the platform, so you don't need an external BI application, additional solutions. All of this is native, and I can easily interact with this data and even go deeper into the information behind each one of the values. So how many are solved, pending, initialized, canceled, how many are currently running, at which point are they currently running. As well, the same thing I can see for purchase request. And as you can see again, all the reports on purpose, we build them a bit differently. So you can see that there's no fine structure, even how you're going to see or interact with the reports. So one could be, for example, analyzing the data based on the type of request in this case, or where it's currently at. Is it currently in approval and approval request? And all of this are dynamic reports, all created with the Aura Portal platform. One of the really interesting ones, I think, is the one that is based on the dynamic workflow. As you can imagine, this is something that is completely dynamic, so you can control how many have been done to unique recipients or to multiple recipients, and actually see which is this individual activity that is being handled. And I can actually see this dynamic workflow that has been executed, although it's not predefined by the company, it's decision by the users, how actually these interactions are going, what are the current steps that people are taking, and all of this in a real-time tracking system that allows you to see this information, even how it has been executed, following it even on the BPM modeling standard. As you can see, very simple and easy to understand by business users as well as by IT. Not to forget, the most important point that nowadays is going on is how can I make sure that everybody is working? Do I have an improvement of my interactions? This as well is completely native and pre-built inside the application. I can check specific users, what is their activity, what has it been, how many interactions did they do. As you can see now that I'm doing the demonstration, I'm having more access than the one that I had this morning, just testing out if everything was ready for the presentation, or yesterday that I had even least interactions. But this, of course, is something that is really nice to see, and you can do that based on not only employees but as well on your external entities. So who is actually interacting, how many people, and this type of activities. But something else, you can actually check even the activity of the employees within the system, within all the different applications that you have created. So for example, how many applications have been triggered, where are my peaks of working time, or even if I check a longer period of time, actually analyzing more type of activities. Like for example, how many processes have been finished, how many events have been created, how many objects have been evaluated, or how many active activities are right now in the inboxes of my employees. All of this information completely out of the box, real-time information as well as historical information, and you can analyze it at any given point of time and adjusting your business model or even your interactions that you're doing at the same time that you are actually executing them. Big value right now because company changes right now are very complicated, and one of the most important things that we have seen, that speed, agility, and insight into how currently your business is performing, what is the key measurements that needs to be taken, and how to actually modify or improve your activities is really the key of survival for nowadays businesses or improvement of their current business model. All of this possible with the platform as it allows you to have the necessary tools to do so. Any questions? I would like to open the question and answer section, as I am always on the philosophy, if you ask me something, I will respond to you and actually show it to you. If I don't show it, you should not believe me. So please go ahead with questions you might have. Manish, if there are questions in the chat, can you please pass them over?
Sure. All right. So first of all, thanks, Nikhil and Elian, for such wonderful presentation. This was indeed very insightful. Okay. Coming back to the Q&A, we have received a few questions. The first question that I have received, in an organization, how do we identify which are the best processes to automate, considering the fact that we don't have a lot of budget? But if we have to identify only some processes, so what are the most critical processes? What is the process for the identification?
This is a very good question, but to be honest, this is something that is completely custom to your business and your activity. We have, for example, customers that for them, banking, for example, in the States, for them, the most critical process right now were the processes they didn't have, which are new necessities. Like, for example, in the States, there's a program for requesting loans to pay the paycheck of your employees, a government-backed loan. So they needed right away, not today, not tomorrow, right away to have applications and processes to handle this type of loan requests within the organization. We have other companies, like for example, we have companies that needed to cover all the activities that were on-site activities with interacting with citizens or with providers to be now a online web-based activities. So this, of course, had the highest priority as the activities they were doing, like document submission or consultations that were normally being done on site, or revisions of a specific type of actions and business activities could not be performed now face to face. Now they have been streamlined to processes. But as I said, it is something that is completely dependent on your business. But I would say is, what is the change of the activity of your business or services that right now requests a solution that will substitute the on-site activity that you have been doing?
Yeah. So just to add to that, so absolutely. So one is in terms of what goes in from a business critical, operation or a new operation or something which is manual and slowing you down versus your competitors, and probably hurting the customer engagement. So that is for sure one. The second is also in terms of internal business processes, where you have models such as, for example, there's an RTE framework, where you're looking at those processes which are repetitive in nature, time consuming, and error prone. That's where the RT and E. So that's another evaluation you can do internally to see what are those processes that could be automated more from a back office side. So it'd be a mix of both from that aspect. So the customer side is more from criticality, what could hurt you today if it's not well done.
All right, perfect. The second question comes here. What kind of savings can we expect by automating processes? What is the ideal time of implementation for each process?
Okay, I'll take over the first question. So the savings, the first one, that is the instant ROI that you get, is the auditability and the monitoring of the activities, which in a normal scenario, so in a not streamlined or automated everyday environment, you would be investing into actually doing this type of analysis maybe once a month or once every 3 months. In this case, you have this analytical information and the guarantee that any type of application or business activity has been executed the way you have established it to. So this is the instant day zero benefit of actually automating and streamlining your process and application. The second one is the productivity, of course. Productivity within a platform that is actually helping your employees doing their work faster and easier, not jumping between systems or reading emails and sending to 20 people different emails, or asking how to do a specific activity in a specific case. All of this is a huge gain in productivity, higher productivity, higher gains. The big point of course, saving comes, of course, from the core or from the DNA of our platform, which is any solutions that you will require now or in the future with our portal platform, the implementation time cost will be drastically exponentially reduced because of the approach of zero code development. The medium time, I think Nikhil here can give a great example for this, even in your region.
Yeah, so in fact, I think we've a recent example. We just gone live with a customer. So the Umair we've got in the room, where that's a part of the Oman. They handle the containers and the ports operation, where they had a process very much of a hurting the business because you had to suddenly work from home. So the whole cashiering and approvals, etc., was stuck. We went from a stage of ordering, basically from PO to go live in literally 2 weeks, which included the business analysis, the documentation, the approval, the development, the testing, the UAT, to the go live in literally 2 weeks. But the approach here, what's important as a customer, even from a maturity, is we were able to agree on a minimum viable product. Because some of the things where it goes wrong is really if customers don't understand or have the wishful thinking keeps increasing, then of course the time goes on. But I think here what we accomplished was a great understanding of what is the MVP, and we parked the rest of it for the next 2 weeks. So we literally gone on an agile delivery model, saying 2 weeks we release this process, another 2 weeks we release another 2 with integrations. So that's the sort of speed you could really run with, which in a typical bespoke development approach, practically impossible.
All right. So the last question we have, I think this is for you, Ilian. Does the chatbot you demonstrate is enabled with natural language processing? Could it be integrated with platforms like Google Dialog?
So it is enabled with natural language processing, but in this case we are utilizing the Microsoft Virtual Agent platform. You can, if you want, and you are a G Suite customer, use the natural language processing of Google and a Google chatbot within the platform. But natively, we have a partnership with Microsoft, and natively we provide the Microsoft framework for NLP and chatbot and virtual assistant functionalities.
All right, perfect. So, well, that brings us to the end of this webinar.
Hello, this is Samantha here. I'm sorry, I just have one small question.
Sure, Samantha, go ahead.
So let us assume that two different entities have installed Aura Portal for their daily functioning. Would it be possible to integrate these two Aura Portals?
Yes, of course. Not only between two Aura portals, that is the easiest integration possible. But even if you have multiple platforms that are not Aura portal, you can integrate with our native connectors. So our native connectors allow you to integrate even without coding with SAP, Sage, Salesforce, all of these connectors, native connectors that we have available out of the box. But each customer actually can deploy an Aura portal completely for themselves, or even roll it out to multiple entities if they're part of the business. So we have hedge funds that are rolling it out, for example, for common processes or shared services offering between thousands of companies they are working with. We have government entities, even in the Middle East, that have rolled it out to many different divisions or even entities under a ministry within the UAE. So yes, you can interconnect multiple Aura portals between them, or you can use one Aura portal to actually conglomerate multiple companies into one.
In that way, would I be able to use a workflow that has already been used by another entity? Is that possible, or do I have to recreate a completely new workflow?
If this entity is a sister entity of yours and they will provide you with the workflow, yes. But let's say every application, every process that a customer is building for themselves is their own IP. So we don't provide the process of one customer to another. That's why we build some pre-built processes that are available for all our customers, and you have the possibility to create your own workflows and applications which are only your own. If you work in a partnership with another company that has our portal and you provide them this workflow, yes, you can share it between different Aura portals. But we don't do that, and we're not allowed to do that, as every creation or every process, workflow, application, even customization and rules are proprietary to the customer. So it's their own IP.
Okay, thank you.
All right, perfect.
Great.
So, yeah, Nikhil, do you want to add any thoughts, closing notes?
No, so I think basically what we tried to cover here today as part of the overall digital roadmap of any organization, this becomes really, if you look at it, we've covered a very simplistic view to it today, very short time. But really the idea would be to see how do you make process the backbone and strengthen the way you orchestrate that across the organization. And this is one of the platforms that could really take you there in a very, very agile, quick manner. Because today the name of the game with post-COVID is all about speed in any business strategy. And this could help IT accomplish that with business. Yeah. So that's where, so I'd like to thank all of you for your time, for being with us today. Thank you.
All right. So
thank you all.
Yeah. So before we close, I would like to thank our speakers, Nikhil and Ilian, for such a wonderful presentation. We would also like to thank all the attendees for keeping the webinar so interactive. We, as a host, really loved it. We look forward to see you all again during our next webinar, which we will keep you posted. In case if you have any queries, please feel free to get in touch with us, and we would be more than happy to address them all. Thank you again, and have a nice day ahead. Stay safe.
Thank you.